Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining. Today, I want to talk about energy healing. And I've got the feedback from both my current and old students as well as potential students that there's a lot of information out there about energy healing. And I really just want to answer a couple questions and offer my experience so that you can, as with everything that I say, see what resonates for you. So energy healing, as we know it today, well, the word Reiki comes to mind. Reiki is the modernly acceptable term for at least a portion of this body of knowledge of what is energy healing. And there are, here comes the sun. Oh, I hope you can see me. I love that I'm blessed by the sun whenever I go to record. So magical. Okay, so energy healing, as we modernly know it, many people call it Reiki. Reiki is one aspect, and there is so much information out there. As I was about to say, many ancient civilizations held this knowledge. Reiki is a relatively recent rendition coming from Japan of a gentleman who was trying to understand what Jesus did when he was practicing laying on of hands in the Bible as we know it today. But whether you are Christian or not, likely you probably see Jesus as someone who is an interesting person. And so Reiki is actually only recently put into print, given a name, and this was something that Jesus did. This is something that many ascended masters, the Buddha, a lot of avatars or people who we've been taught to look up to understood this information. And I would like to present what I know of it to you today so that you can begin to integrate it and use it. And, well, we're likely have the potential to always be running this energy, but when you know it, when you consciously run it, you amplify your power. So the first thing that I want to share is that this ability, Reiki, which is under the larger umbrella of energy healing, Reiki is just one part of many different bodies of knowledge under this larger umbrella of energy healing. So this is in our DNA as human beings. This means a couple really beautiful things. First, as I mentioned in an earlier broadcast, it does not matter what your gender, what your skin color, what your socioeconomic status, what your religion is. This is in your DNA because you are a human being. So just sit with that for a second. I love how that feels. I can feel it. I can feel yes and no energy in my body. And when I say those words and share that message, to me it feels very much true. And the universality of it is really important on the planet at this juncture as we consider all the things that we now know really do need shifting, and no slow timeline shifting, instantaneous shifting. This body of knowledge is a part of that, as it's already present in every human being. And I want to share a couple examples for those of you who might be a little bit skeptical as to whether or not you can do this. Think about the last time you maybe hit your shin on the coffee table or had a really bad headache. What did you do? You put your hand on your head. You put your hand on the injured place in your body. Why did you do that? You did it instinctively, and I offer that you did it because you instinctively knew that there's healing energy that runs through your hands. So we run this through our physical body. We also have the ability to broadcast. We are broadcasting antennas, and I'll get to that in another recording. But for now, another example I want to share is think about a time when someone you loved or a family member was sick or ill or not well. What did you and those you love instinctively do? You sent positive energy, you sent prayers, you sent well wishes, and you did so without having to put a physical card in the mailbox. You did so with your awareness, and you sent it out. Notice how that feels. You have this power. You've likely already been running this energy. This energy, one way to come to understand it is the heart center and the energy of love. It's much broader than that, but I also want to share just a couple principles, as this is an offering for everyone who watches to be able to start to harness more power as you run this energy. So really you need three things to amplify the energy. One is your intention, and this is where I mentioned the heart center. Your intention for healing, your intention for light work, your intention for love is what activates this energy. This is 100% light work. Also your attention. So being able to, as you start, likely carve out some time and find a quiet space. This is not necessary as you gain more skills, but being able to pay attention to your intention so as to send the energy. The other thing you need is permission. And in a later broadcast, I'll get to some more astral and not obvious ways to receive permission, but for right now, it's essential to understand that every human being on this planet is sovereign. So when we are working with light and sending healing energy, we're doing so with permission so that the person is open to receiving it. Now, as you get started, before you get to watch my broadcast on astral travel and ways to ask for permission, just know that with your intention and your attention to send this light energy, you are sending energy, and the person that you are sending energy to very well likely may be open to receiving it. If they are not, that energy is not lost. That energy will go to wherever it is needed most on this planet right now. And as you are probably aware, we are in need of so much healing, so you can never get it wrong, even as you get started, with sending your intention for healing and paying attention to that intention. All right, two more things that are coming through that I want to share. Practice. As you get started, this is, when I teach people, I often say it's like learning a new skill. It's like learning a new sport, learning to ski, learning to play tennis. It's like learning to cook. It's like learning something new. So when you first start, what would you expect from yourself when you're learning a new skill? Well, you'd expect that you take baby steps and you do one thing and then you learn something else and you integrate that and then you keep going. This is possibly the same thing for many of us as we're remembering and reawakening, and I like to call it a remembering, because this should feel very much like home. This should feel very much like a natural place for you to be. But don't worry if you can't feel the energy in your hands. Don't worry if you're not quite sure what you're doing. Your intention and your attention will support your third eye opening and your remembering how it feels to run this energy. The other thing that we'll get to in a later broadcast is the use of symbols. Symbols can be used in energy healing to amplify the healing, to send it to a specific energy body, to do a whole host of things. And the cool thing about these symbols that I will get to, I'm not sure if I'm going to do it today, but eventually I'll lay it out there, is that this also shows us that this is, the word Reiki is a pretty modern word for energy healing, and this umbrella that I was talking about that is energy healing, Reiki's here. The symbols that we know in Reiki can also be traced to many other, they have such beautiful similarities to other ancient cultures' symbols for the exact same thing, way far before the internet was ever invented. So that to me is just so magical for us to remember, quite honestly. Okay. So as I mentioned, many people, when I meet students and clients, many people are already doing this. And really what we're doing right now is grounding it down, giving the mind something to sort of chew on, or a framework for this part of ourselves that's been so conditioned to live in this linear, rational society, to give that part of ourselves something to work with. And when we give that part of ourselves, when we, which is one of the most beautiful things about the Reiki tradition, is that that is really truly what it provides. It provides a framework so that our spirit can really receive more, so that our intuition can open up. So this is really meant as an offering for you to be able to start to more fully integrate how you're already using this energy. The other thing that I feel called to share, and really make this a personal decision, this is not something that you have to spend a lot of money on. This is not something that, well, if spending a lot of money for you signals that it's important, that might very well be something that is useful and helpful, but this does not even ever have to be that way with this body of knowledge and this information. And similarly, it doesn't matter who you learned from. It does in the sense of the lineage that's being passed down, but this is not. And I just love the unpacking of I call it the Western linear mind. We've been conditioned and trained to sort of need this resume of, well, who did you learn from? And were they, did they write a book? And did you pay a lot of money? And, trying to like impress ourselves and others. This body of information is so much more elegant and simple and profound. So I encourage you to consider that it does not matter how famous your teacher is, where you studied. You matter. Your intention, your willingness to work with the energy. You can do this every day in the middle of a forest and become so powerful. You can also join. There are so many wonderful, beautiful, lengthy programs to learn this information. And likely many of us are wired different ways, so really go with what's comfortable for you, but no, you don't have to do anything special, and it doesn't matter how much you pay, and it does not matter who your teacher is. It does matter who attunes you, and an attunement is more like a graduation ceremony. There's this passing on of, as I mentioned, symbols and lineage. And so the lineage that comes through, in my experience, pretty much every single light worker is very similar. I mentioned Jesus, Muhammad. You can also think of Buddha. You can think of many of the great rishis and avatars that walked the planet, Saint Germain. All of the people that have been known throughout humanity, in my understanding, are beyond 3D, on the other side, supporting this work. So you do get a lineage, but it has everything to do with your teacher, but it has really nothing to do with who your teacher is in this 3D world. I hope that makes sense. And I really want to share that because I want this to be able to be as universally available to whoever and whenever you feel called to find it. Okay. So I'm referring to Reiki as under this umbrella of energy healing. And the thing that I love to share with my own experience of being a Reiki master which is sort of where I started and part of what I offer now. But really, I teach energy healing and I offer energy healing. And I've watched the information that even has been offered in the past couple hundred years about Reiki already go through a couple different levels of upgrades and revisions, which is why I think it's so cool to keep it fluid and to be able to move beyond the structures that we're used to putting things in. So, for example, the traditional Reiki hand positions that you use when you're, as I mentioned, you run energy through your hands. I like to let my hands hover over myself and someone else's body if I'm offering a healing or giving a healing to myself. Those hand positions have already, how to say, the protocol has morphed and been upgraded and been simplified for those who feel resonant with the more simple, more universally available information. So Reiki in and of itself already had a very simple series of hand positions, and I am new to broadcasting video, but if I get the chance, I'm going to try to put some pictures of hand positions. Or maybe not. Maybe also what I'm going to share is that is since morphed into placing your hands over your chakras. And many of us know this modernly acceptable 7 chakra system, which is already expanding into 8 and 9 and 10 chakras. But simply the idea of placing your hands over your heart chakra, as you can see how I'm doing on a self-healing, the energy is running through my hands into my heart chakra. And this is the really cool thing about practicing on yourself. You get to feel what it feels like to be the recipient of the healing energy. You get to feel, oh, hey, wow, I can feel my heart chakra receive this light energy that's coming through my hands. And then you also get to feel what it feels like, practice feeling what it feels like to be a healer. What do you feel when you put your hands over this heart center? Is it expansive? Is it bright? Is it hot? Is it sunk? What's happening? That's where I mentioned practice. And now you might be asking, how does this energy flow through the hands? Well, we as human beings are energy bodies. And our energy field is often known as our aura. It's also a torus, a toroidal-shaped energy field, and that's like a donut-shaped. And again, I'm going to try to integrate a picture here to show you, but you know, the column of energy goes up and out, and then it goes down and out. So this means that our crown chakra opens up, our root chakra opens down, and we cycle energy forward and backward into this donut-shaped field. So that is what we know in the 7 chakra system as the top and the bottom of the 7 chakras. The other 5 in between, they go forward and they go backward. And if you see what I'm doing with my hands, it's almost like an ice cream cone shaped field. So it starts here and then it goes, it conically extends outward. So we have the 5 chakras that are along our spinal column, moving forward and moving backward. And I like to teach our Sushumna, our main energy channel, think of it as a pipeline. It sits right where your spinal column is. As you start to work with this energy, especially as you receive attunements, which are, as I mentioned, the passing of symbols and the receiving of the lineage of healing masters that actually do the work. But your pipeline opens up so that you're able to harness and then flow more energy through your hands. So it comes down, it comes up, and it moves out through your hands. So that when you're laying hands on yourself, doing a daily healing practice, which I suggest, moving, and you can see how I put both hands over my heart. This is my heart chakra. This is my personal use of sending healing energy, and I hit all 7 chakras by putting my hands over every energy center. I start the day every single day like this just because it's so wonderful to give ourselves this healing. But also, if you're offering healing to someone, you can just lay both hands It's good to have them laying down or seated up straight. You want a straight spinal column because this energy that's running through the spine, that's our Shushumna, that's our main energy channel. So your spine's straight, the recipient's spinal column is straight, so that the energy can really fluidly and easily move and shift and clear and upgrade. So that's just a little bit of a light touch on how this works, and that I hope that I've laid some groundwork for the understanding that we are energy bodies. We have this main energy channel. We have a series of chakras that runs along this channel. We have other chakras as well, but just to keep it simple, the 7 main chakras that you know, I will put, again, testing my skills here on this video, I'm going to try to put an image so you can see all 7 chakras in case you're not aware. This is where you should be placing your hands. How long do you place your hands on yourself or anyone else? There's no wrong answer. The other thing that I love about this type of work, because there is a lineage of masters that are in the astral or the higher dimensions that is actually running the energy, you can't get it wrong. That being said, you also can't take credit or shouldn't take credit for, I, Lisa Haley, healed somebody of cancer. This is not an ego-based practice, which is also why, to circle back, it doesn't really matter who the person that trained you is. Feel the integrity of the energy, and then in your own energetic integrity, practice. It's just that simple, and it's just that universal. So, we run energy through our hands, and we interact with the energy centers of our own body or of someone else's body. And this affects both what we know as chakras, but it also affects the aura. The human aura, depending on the amount of energy that a person is harnessing and often is flowing through this main pipeline, it can extend out 4 feet, it could extend out 8 feet. And then sometimes you might notice that you can pull your aura in if you need to, but the human aura is this toroidal-shaped energy field that often kind of looks like an egg, too. Depending on the person, it's about 4 to 8 feet out in all directions. Okay. So, one more comment on how this all is happening. And I want to, again, circle back to where many of us are likely coming from, is this Western, linear, rational, scientifically based way of living in the world, where we need to see something before we believe it's real. I love science. I was trained in science, but science really isn't, it's gonna come meet spirituality, but spirituality doesn't need to have this type of proof that science is used to. So just because you can't see it does not mean it is not real. So everything that I'm talking about, these energy fields, as you start to be able to sense and feel and experience energy, it will become very real. And you might have to take a couple leaps of faith and keep going, even when you can't necessarily physically feel it or see it here in this 3D reality. So, to close, I hope that this is just enough information for a fun introductory offering. This healing system that we modernly often associate with the word Reiki, but that is actually a much larger energy healing body of knowledge, was understood by many ancient cultures. This healing system, sort of, I'm picturing like quantum leaping over all the ways that our society currently sort of keeps us stuck. We've been trained to trade money for time. We've been trained to trade money for value. Yet we know that when we wake up every single morning, no matter what the status of our bank account, we have value. We exist. So this is a super cool and super powerful body of knowledge that is resurfacing. It's coming back up. It was never actually lost. In my understanding, it was kept safe within a few verbal lineages, and there are some written texts that will likely be revealed in the future. But you already have everything you need to start working with it. So don't wait for the next book to be written. I really want to encourage you right now to check out the images, to understand that this energy runs through your hands, and to know that your intention of sending light and healing and your attention to sending this healing are really all that's needed. And then you'll learn how to ask for permission. I will share that with you, but just know that sending light energy, your energy will never be lost. Also, it isn't really about you doing the healing. This work is so far beyond the ego mind. And I just feel so freed by that, because then you know you can't get it wrong and you're always going to get it right. And it doesn't really matter what happens. And then with all that, then the miracles really do start to show up. Okay. Thank you so much for watching and for listening, and I hope to see you here again soon. Namaste.